Real... Real YouTubers make the content that is educational but hopefully fun. So I have an announcement. Now, none of you will be aware of this feature, but normally I record in the mornings. However, it is actually the evening. So anyway, there I was. I was thinking about making a video where I ranked every Eeveelution, right? I may still make this video. Let me know if you're interested in it, but etc., whatever. Okay, that's not what we're talking about here. Now, the next idea I had was I was like, okay, so I could rank all the Eeveelutions, but then, so those of you who followed the channel for a little bit now, not too long, but a little bit, have known that I got to number 1 on the ladder, both with Leafeon and with Glaceon, 2 of the Eeveelutions. And I kind of, it's a little weird. Oh, music. It's a little weird, but I kind of have a craving. Like, I kind of want to do it again, right? So then, a separate thought, I was like, all right, I want to get to number 1 on the ladder again with a different Eeveelution. I feel like it's time. Because I think if like some of them should be all right, like shouldn't be that hard. So I feel like maybe I'll try and do all of them as like a challenge for myself if I feel like it. Like, I'm not committing to anything here, but if I feel like it, maybe I'll go for it. Anyway, so I was like, okay, I kind of like am craving Eeveelution stuff again. Like, I feel like I want to like put myself through that again. Leafeon was easy, Glaceon was hard. I think I'll pick a middling ground Eeveelution next. So anyway, that's kind of where my head was at, and then I was like, well, okay, like, which one should I do next, right? Like, I don't have I did Glaceon because I'd done Leafeon first. And I did Leafeon just because I don't remember why I did Leafeon, but it chose me, so I chose it. And so we brought it to number 1, etc., etc. So I was like, all right, so, you know, Eeveelution, like, what should I do next? And then I thought, you know, what could be kind of cool is, like, what if I did a video where I told you all how to use every Eeveelution? And what I mean when I say that is, what if we kind of went through together and took a look at each of the Eeveelutions that I haven't already used? We can look at the ones that I already have used. But I don't have sets in advance. Basically, like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and kind of do my process, which I would normally do off camera, and just show it to you guys, because the theory here is that, like, when you choose to use a Pokemon, there's certain things that you want to look for and certain things that you want to kind of decide on. And so I'm just going to go through and kind of use like a sample set of each, but I'm going to show you all the process that I use when determining how to use a Pokemon. And the idea is that by doing it for these, what, 7, 8 Pokemon? Should be 7, right? 3 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1. That's 8. For these 8 Pokemon, then maybe you'll be able to apply it to Pokemon that you want to use that aren't necessarily thematically related. So, yeah. Why don't we start with, we'll go in generational order, but not necessarily of Pokedex order within that. Why don't we start with probably an easier one? Let's go Vaporeon first. So Vaporeon is a Pokemon. It's the water type Eeveelution, one of the original 3. The first thing you want to look at are the stats when it comes to Pokemon. Stats and move pool and typing. So when we think about Vaporeon, Vaporeon, there's a couple things we have to think about. So the typing, it's a pure water type. The ability, the stats, the move pool, all these things make up in how you want to use this Pokemon. So I like to look at the stats first. I think that's a good place to look. We can see that Vaporeon actually has decent special attack. It has 110, which is not bad at all. And it has a relatively low base speed. So looking at only the offensive stats, and obviously it doesn't have very good attack. So looking at only the offensive stats, you might say, all right, so maybe I could use this as like a Trick Room attacker, right? Like maybe a Life Orb, Dynamax Pokemon. Like, the speed is really awkward because it hits 85 stat, meaning it's faster than most Trick Room Pokemon, but slower than almost everything else. You also have to consider its place in the metagame right now. So Vaporeon right now, not super good in the metagame is my guess, because Rillaboom is everywhere. So you're going to have to keep that like in mind when you're building around it. But putting that aside, we see, alright, special attack is fine, but nothing to sneeze at. We'll come back to it. Or it's fine. It's above average for sure. It's like not bad, but like it's a pure water type, so it only gets stab and water moves. So we'll have to see if it gets any good coverage moves to use that with. Speed stat's relatively low. Its highest stat is HP. Its HP is ridiculous. You can see it actually can hit up to 237 HP stat at level 50, which is a little bit nutty, not gonna lie. So 237 max HP. Defense is relatively low. However, with the HP will kind of compensate for that, and the special defense is like middling to like average probably. However, again with the high HP, you can kind of compensate for that. So when you look at Vaporeon, I'm kind of thinking right off the gates, all right, we know that it's a bulky Pokemon. You can use it as a special attacker. However, I think probably the best set for it is probably going to be, I'm going to pair it with an Intimidate user to buff its physical defense, and then I'm going to be super tanky, and I'll use it for support. So now let's look at the moves to see if it can actually fill that role, and also to see if we can use it as a special attacker. So just go through the moves. Baton Pass, not a great move in doubles. Helping Hand is a really big one. So Helping Hand is something that is a really strong support move, and so that's definitely something we're going to be thinking about when using Vaporeon. Haze, a decent support move. I wouldn't really recommend it. I see here we have Acid Armor, so like that is something we could consider. Like Acid Armor, Protect, Wish is something we could do. Protect, obviously. Icy Wind, a good speed control mechanic depending on the team. You can see it gets Sunny Day, Rain Dance, and Hail. Don't know why it gets Sunny Day, but that's fine. Helping Hand, we already mentioned. Fake Tears. Now, some Pokemon can use Fake Tears well. I wouldn't say Vaporeon is one of them because it's too slow to really make use of it. We go into the TRs. We see it gets Ice Beam. Most water types will get Nice Move. Hydro Pump. We need to check for Scald. Okay, it does get Scald as like our kind of preferred water move, but you have Hydro Pump as well. Shadow Ball, Hyper Voice, Muddy Water, Stored Power, Scald. What we notice here is that the move pool is rather lacking. That's going to be a theme with most of our Eeveelutions. Move pool is pretty lacking. So, we see the Scald, Helping Hand. Those are the standout moves so far. Ice Beam and Icy Wind, those are there as well. Let's look at the egg moves. So, Yawn. Yawn, Detect is better than Protect, Wish. And that's pretty much it. So, if I were to build a Vaporeon set right off the gate, right off the bat, I'd probably do something like this. Water Absorb is the better ability. I think you'd probably run Helping Hand, Yawn, Scald, and then one more. Eevees are kind of tricky on Vaporeon. I kind of just want to do a little precursor. So typically I would invest in bulk. So I'd probably run like a lot of defense. I've actually used Vaporeon before, so this isn't new to me. I had Wish Protect in the last slots over Yawn, so I think Yawn Protect is probably fine. Maybe a Citrus Berry. Yeah, this is probably what I would be inclined to do. Typically you want to use a nature that buffs your highest stat. So Calm would be like probably better here, if like as long as we're investing in special defense at all. But like, for example, I might like, I don't know if this is something you'd actually want to do, but like maybe we put up Vaporeon and we see, okay, like Rillaboom, let's go Woodhammer. We're gonna change it to 70 base power because this is Grassy Glide. It just doesn't have it in the calc. Okay, so we can see that with a little bit, like if we were in max defense, for example, then like the first thing is like, okay, so the first thing is we definitely want at least this much investment, right? I didn't Rillaboom, yeah. And then maybe we say, okay, we want to live like Miracle Seed, right? And then we say, okay, if we want to do that, like we'd have to do something like Bold, for example. So I don't really think you gain that much personally from surviving Rillaboom. We can see it takes so much investment to do a Miracle Seed Rillaboom. So this is what it would require there. So you could do something like this, like a Bold Vaporeon with a ton of physical defense, and then put like, what, 60? 52 in special defense. This is just what I would do. I would start messing around in the calc, decide things that you want to live. Like maybe I want to be 2-hit KO'd by Dragapult, if that's possible. Max Dragapult with Life Orb. I can already see that with a Citrus Berry, I can be 2-hit KO'd, but it takes less investment, right? Is that right? No, actually, it takes this exact amount of investment. So this is just kind of like something that I would consider, right? A spread like this, and then what you want to do is you want to start testing and saying, okay, like where does this feel strong, where does this feel weak? We can just throw this in there for now. Change this to Bold. I probably would want more special defense on a Vaporeon, but this is definitely an option. Just like kind of a super bulky special attacker. And technically, just so you know, Protect is optimal in the first slot. The reason is if you run out of time, Pokemon always, if you run out of time at a live event or in cartridge, any Pokemon you haven't selected a move for will take the move in the first slot. So typically Protect is the best use of that. Some people disagree with that. And also, if we're going to be technical, Detect is better than Protect because you can't imprison, or you almost never will get Detect imprisoned, but you might get Protect imprisoned. So if we're going to be perfectly optimal. Now, Vaporeon's relatively easy, not going to lie. Some of the harder ones are going to be Pokemon like Flareon. So Flareon's one where like I haven't used it before, I haven't brought it to tournament. Flash Fire and Guts. Let's take a look. So again, starting with the stats, Guts and the ability. So Guts is probably the better ability here, because we know that Flareon is really high base attack, same base speed as Vaporeon, but way worse HP. So really high attack stat, that's great. Good special defense, bad physical defense, bad HP. When I look at this kind of Pokemon, I'm thinking, all right, maybe as Trick Room Sweeper, right? Maybe like I'm just gonna start putting in things that I think like. We know it as Guts. What if we had Toxic Orb? Turn that music a little bit. Guts, and then we ran like Detect, Facade, Flare Blitz, +1, right? Does it get a ground move? Stomping Teacher maybe? Max Quake, I see it. Scorching Sands, Burning Jealousy, Steel Spike. Iron Tail, that's actually really interesting. So then we come over here and we say, alright, let's say I had Flareon. Don't know what the spread is. Superpower, let's say Iron Tail. How much we're doing to Togekiss? ability, Guts. Okay, so I see that we can't KO with just regular Iron Tail. What if we max it? Now I can KO Bulky Togekiss in one shot. Flare Blitz does not get that, so that's an option, for example, that I would consider, like Iron Tail. Go through the moves. Now, yeah, because Flareon's stats indicate that it's not bulky enough, like unlike Vaporeon, because the HP is really the killer, because its special defense is similar. It actually might even be higher than Vaporeon, right? 110 versus what? Yeah, 95. It's actually much bulkier on the special defense side, but the HP is so much lower. Like, you can see that even if I invest max HP, like, I have less HP than 0 HP Vaporeon. So, like, the HP actually makes a big deal here. Even though, and the defense is, like, not great already. So, although it's not the frailest Pokemon, it's also not the bulkiest. Same egg moves, we don't need to look at that every time. But yeah, moves like Superpower is something I would consider. We can see how much Superpower is going to do to Tyranitar. Does a lot of damage. Actually, Oko's Dynamax T-Tar if you're burned. So, that's something that I would actually keep in mind, right? Like, so I'm thinking, alright, maybe, like, I do something like this. Right? And I'm planning on, like, using it as a Dynamax Pokemon. And since Flareon's slow, maybe we're thinking, alright, maybe we do, like, a Trick Room mode here, right? Something like this. It's not the slowest, but, like, as a... It's definitely an option, right? What else does it get? Move Pool, blah, blah, blah. Not that many other moves in its arsenal. It does get Superpower, right? Because that might be a transfer move. Let's just confirm it gets Superpower. Why do I not see Superpower? Okay, it does get Superpower. I just was missing it. I thought it was a lower number for some reason. Yeah, so the nice thing about Eeveelutions is that their move pool isn't that wide, so you don't have that many choices when you're looking at it. The only option that I would consider over Superpower here, like I think Fachade and Flare Blitz are probably your best bets. Fachade is a no drawback normal type move. Superpower obviously, or Flare Blitz is your stab move, and the next best option is like, I don't even know, something bad. So, yeah, and then Superpower, of course, is a good max move, and it gives you good coverage. Because, like, the thing is, okay, you can't one-shot Togekiss. You basically choose, do you want to one-shot bulky Togekiss, which I'm not sure many people are even running, or do you want to one-shot Tyranitar? And so, in general, I think Tyranitar is probably more valuable. Yeah, although, yeah. So, that's kind of what I would probably do for Flareon, and build a Trick Room team around this Pokemon, right? Jolteon's next. Taking a look at the stats that you want to do. Yeah, stats and abilities, I think, are the first things you want to do. I just don't know where the alphabet is. Let's go to Jolteon. I know we're moving a little quickly here, but I just kind of want to give you all like a pretty quick overview of kind of this process. Should I turn the lights on? There you go. Yeah. So, Jolteon. So, Volt Absorb and Quick Feet. So, the way Quick Feet works is if you're affected by a status condition, you get 1.5 times speed. However, Jolteon's already pretty quick, and the only way that you could consistently do this is with, like, Flame Orb Jolteon. Which, I mean, honestly, what you could do is use, like, Flame Orb Quick Feet Jolteon to outspeed Dragapult and, like, detect turn 1 and then pair it with, like, a fast special attacker. But, like, I don't even understand why you're outspeeding Dragapult in the first place. So, let's look at the stats. Bulk. Special defense is actually higher than I thought, but the HP is similar to Flareon, is lower, so it's just got worse bulk than Flareon, basically. However, the special attack is relatively high, and the speed is very high. It will outspeed everything that isn't Dragapult, effectively, and some Choice Scarf Pokemon. So, when I look at Jolteon, I think, alright, let's look at the moves. Rising Voltage is interesting. It's very powerful if you pair it with Electric Terrain. Special attack is a little lackluster given the bulk, because most of the time you're going to run Jolteon, like, we can just jump ahead here. You're almost always going to run this on Jolteon. Excuse me. The lights made me sneeze. You want to outspeed everything. Maybe you could argue, like, you might not actually need max speed. One thing you can do is you want to see, like, what you're close to outspeeding. So, like, Jolteon, there's nothing really that you have to outspeed at 130. Maybe you go down to, like, 127 and outspeed Talonflame, who I think it's 195 stat. 195. Yep. Okay, so you can go down, like, you don't need max speed Jolteon, I think. Always check Choice Scarf Pokemon as well. Like, you need to check, like, Adamant Choice Scarf Dragovich, for example. But in theory, you could do this and, you know, get a little extra bulk. Let's see. We're in Jolteon? Yeah. So now let's look at the moves. Thundershock, whatever. Helping Hand again. It's okay on Jolteon. It's not phenomenal, but it is okay. Discharge, whatever. Thunder, interesting. Let's see. Helping Hand, Weather Ball. So Weather Ball's a Pokemon like Jolteon can actually use, in theory. I don't know exactly what you would use it for, but you can technically use it. I wonder, like, now I'd start asking myself, like, okay, like, let's say my Jolteon had Weather Ball, right? And it was raining, and I was against Tyranitar. And I gave it Life Orb. And I maxed it. Okay, so that doesn't work. Because the count doesn't work. It's 130 base power water move. So let's just change this to like Scald. Make this 130 base power. In the rain. I can see that it doesn't one-shot Dynamax Tyranitar, but oh boy, it does a lot of damage. So, actually, even if it's 100 base power, you actually one-shot 9 Dynamax Tyranitar. So like maybe I'm pairing Jolteon on like a rain team, right? That's something that I'm just like tossing out ideas as they hit me, right? One thing that I think you can also run on Jolteon is Fake Tears, right? Fake Tears Jolteon, because it's so fast, is like you could actually use it as a support Pokemon if you wanted. So I'm gonna check for Nuzzle now. I don't think it gets Nuzzle. No Nuzzle, but it should get Thunder Wave, right? If I can spell. Thunder Wave, yep. So another option you have is like maybe Yawn, like really fast Yawn, trying to Yawn the opponent Dynamax. Like they won't expect that, and maybe you run like Focus Sash on your Jolteon, right? And yeah, so Thunder Wave, Yawn, those are good moves. Charm, Light Screen, you could run, in theory, you could run Light Clay and run Light Screen. I think that's kind of bad though, so I wouldn't recommend it. Helping Hand, Fake Tears, like it actually has decent support moves. Volt Switch, that's a big one. Volt Switch is definitely something you want to watch out for when you're building. I'll zoom in a little. Electro Ball, Hyper Voice, Stored Power, none of these are phenomenal. So I think if you're running Jolteon, you kind of have two options. The first is maybe a supporting set, like maybe Yawn, Fake Tears, Volt Switch, and then either Helping Hand or Protect. The second is an offensive set, and this is probably where my intuition would go. And that's probably going to be Detect, Weather Ball, Volt Switch, or, I mean, you don't have to run Volt Switch is the thing. You could run Thunder, you could run Rising Voltage, and then a coverage move. So we're going to go down here to kind of see, alright, we can use Max Mindstorm, Max Phantasm is probably a little better. I would consider Hyper Beam on Jolteon as well. Because you can only really justify Weather Ball if you're on a rain team as well. So maybe you don't even bother with Weather Ball. Like maybe if you're using a rain team, you do like this. Weather Ball, Thunder, Volt Switch. And maybe if you're not using a rain team, you do like Shadow Ball, Volt Switch. You also have to think about if you're going to Dynamax it or not. Because if you're going to Dynamax it, maybe you run Rising Voltage. And then maybe you use Hyper Beam for speed control, right? Can't spell. Something like this. So this is kind of a general approach. A lot of team building depends on the rest of the team around it, but these are kind of the things that I would personally start looking for. Yeah, cool. So let's move on to the Unova, or to the Johto ones. Next up is Espeon. So Espeon, let's take a look at the stats. Abilities, Synchronize isn't a very good ability. Specifically, I'll tell you why it's not very good. It only works on Poison, Paralysis, and Burn. And the reason that's bad is because if it reflected Sleep, I think you could justify using Synchronize. However, like, yeah, it doesn't reflect Sleep, or it doesn't mirror Sleep. I mean, this isn't specifically for Espeon, because most of the time Magic Bounce would be better on Espeon anyway, but there's some Synchronized Pokemon where, like, you could maybe justify using, like, yeah, maybe some of these Pokemon, like, no. Okay, yeah, well, you wouldn't really use any of the Synchronized Pokemon, but because they have better abilities, but even if they didn't, you probably still would prefer not to use it, because it only reflects certain things. Espeon, so it has a high base speed, 110, a high base special attack, and the bulk is pretty lackluster. It's got similar bulk to Jolteon, I believe. Yeah, same bulk as Jolteon, which is not super effective at taking attacks. So, however, unlike Jolteon, the special attack and the speed are flipped, meaning we actually have a very high base special attack stat on this Espeon. So when you're thinking about Espeon, we're thinking, all right, lackluster bulk, but good speed, good special attack. Good speed, very good special attack, I would say. So what are we going to do with this, right? Probably a similar thing to Jolteon, although the next thing we have to look at is move pool, right? Like, let's see, does it get sweeping moves, and what support moves does it get? Baton Pass, they all get Baton Pass. These are all Eevee's moves, Helping Hand. You're probably not going to run Helping Hand Espeon. Morning Sun, so unlike most Eeveelutions, does get consistent recovery. Power Swap, Psych Up, Future Sight. None of these moves are really worth mentioning except Psychic. Psychic is pretty strong. Hyper Beam, Giga Impact, Dig, Light Screen, Reflect. So it gets both screens. So one thing you can do is dual screens, right? That's something to keep an eye out for if you really want to use it. Helping Hand, we already talked about. Weather Ball, Fake Tears. Trick Room is a little weird. It doesn't really make sense in Espeon, but if you really wanted, you could at least you should consider, like, what if I gave it Trick Room? What if I gave it Focus Sash? What if I gave it Iron Ball, right? Something you can consider. Baton Pass, Shadow Ball, Trick. That's like, it could be used on Scarf or Spec sets a little bit easier. Skill Swap, you start to think, okay, like, is there anything I want to Skill Swap, Magic Bounce, or Synchronize to? Calm Mind, Grass Knot, Ally Switch, Dazzling Gleam, Psychic Fangs, etc., and then the usual egg moves. And then we get Expanding Force. So, how much special attack does... Okay, so the issue is that Espeon's kind of just like a worse Alakazam, because I was thinking like maybe you could pair it with Indeedee and use like, I don't know, like Magic or, you know, Expanding Force, but the special attack is lower and the speed stat is lower, so it doesn't really make that much sense. I think on Espeon you're probably going to want like maybe Life Orb, Detect Expanding Force, you can run Shadow Ball. What else would you run on this thing? Like, you really lose to Tyranitar is the issue. Max Knuckle, it only gets on the physical side. Like, you can run Grass Knot, but it's not very strong. Dazzling Gleam isn't awful either. Like, you can use this as kind of just like a fast special attacker. But it does really struggle versus Tyranitar. Other options, like Espeon is probably going to be one of the harder ones. You can run Scarf, like I mentioned. You can run Dual... Like, I honestly kind of feel like Dual Screens wouldn't be awful. Though, it depends a lot on the team around it. Espeon's a tough one, I'm not going to lie. The move pool and the stats, like... They leave a lot to be desired. I'm trying to think, is there anything else you can do with this thing? Like dual screens. You could be... I wonder how bulky you can make it. Probably not bulky enough. Yeah, this is a Pokemon that's pretty tricky. I'm not gonna lie to you all. Like, I'm thinking like maybe you can use Calm Mind, but the bulk is so bad that like and the speed isn't good enough either. You can run Specs, I guess. You can run Choice Specs. It's just not that strong is the thing. Like, why? Yeah, like, even Alakazam isn't that good, and Alakazam is looking like a better version of this thing. Yeah, I would probably have to come back to this one, I'm not gonna lie. Like, this one is pretty tricky. Yeah, you can run some calcs. Like, alright, how much is Espeon? Is Expanding Force in the calc? It's not even in the calc. So, let's say Espeon's Psychic versus, like, Rillaboom, and let's say it's in Psychic terrain. Let's give it, like, Life Orb. Okay, so... I think it's like a 120 base power move, if I recall correctly. So, like, we see that we can OHKO offensive Rillaboom, or, like, non-assault this Rillaboom, with Life Orb Expanding Force, but I'm not sure if I did that calc correctly. I'm not even sure this is calcing... No, it is calcing correctly. It is the right terrain boost, at least. But yeah, so we see, like, maybe we pair it with, like, Indeedee or something, or maybe we pair it with, like, a faster Max Mindstorm user, for example. Yeah, so there's like definitely some things you can do with it. I would probably start with the Life Orb set and then kind of experiment. And mostly on special attackers, you're just going to do this. Or on sweepers. Fast sweepers of any type, you're going to do this. Now, Umbreon is a bit more interesting to me, at least personally. Umbreon, I actually got second at the World Championships last year, which is the highest placing Eeveelution ever, I believe. I didn't check that. Oh, wait, Sylveon never won Worlds, right? Yeah, so it has to, at best tied Sylveon. I don't think Sylveon ever got through. So, Umbreon... Abilities, Synchronize, Inner Focus. Inner Focus is better because Synchronize is bad. Very bulky. Good HP, great defense, or good defense, great special defense. An extremely, extremely bulky Pokemon that's annoying to deal with. Based on just the stats, we see its offenses are lacking. We see its speed is like the other bulky evolutions, or like Vaporeon and Flareon. We see it's relatively slow, or like it's mid-speed. It's not that slow. It's like slow, yeah. It's very bulky, so we know that we are more inclined towards special defense, which is better than being inclined towards physical defense, because you can always supplement physical defense with Intimidate. We see that just like a quick look, we're like, okay, maybe the max moves are kind of bad, like meaning maybe the move pool is kind of narrow. So let's take a look at the moves. We already know we're probably going to be using Inner Focus, and we're probably going to be inclined to invest in bulk, so like something like that is probably a fair starting point. Snarl, good move. Lowers the special attack of both Pokemon. Typically better on faster Pokemon, like Arcanine, which can lower the special attack before the target attacks, but also good in bulky Pokemon. We see it gets Moonlight, meaning that you can have consistent recovery in one turn, as long as the weather is not... Yeah, sand or rain or hail. It only heals a little bit in sand, rain, or hail. So you'd be more inclined to pair this with, like, either sun teams or just, yeah, like, Pokemon that can change the weather to sun, like fire-type Pokemon. If you want to run Moonlight, which you don't have to. Mean Look, kind of a gimmicky move, but has some usage sometimes. Dig, Screech, Charm, Helping Hand, Weather Ball, Fake Tears. A lot of the... Oh, it gets Wonder Room. That's interesting. yeah, we see the move pool's kind of not super great. Crunch, Taunt, Foul Play, those are all good moves. Yawn, Detect. So if I were to build an Umbreon spread, I would do something like probably... Detect is actually optional. I would definitely run Yawn. I think I'd definitely run Foul Play as well. I think those two are kind of good starting points. And then you have your options of Helping Hand, which is a really good support move. Something like Helping Hand, Yawn, Foul Play, and Moonlight. Not bad move, not bad at all. You can run Leftovers or Citrus here. You can also choose not to run Recovery or not to run Helping Hand. Like, those are more optional. I don't think you want to do that many other things. Like, Snarl is an option as well. You could run Wish. People are probably going to ask me why you don't run Wish. It's just not as consistent in VGC. Taunt is another really good option. Like, maybe you run, like, something like that could actually be really good as well. Because this means that Taunt is just an amazing support move, and there's a lot of Pokemon that just do not want to get taunted. And Umbreon's actually nice because it's immune to Prankster Taunt as well. So, yeah, like, it's, like, there's, I think you definitely run Yawn, Foul Play, and then +2. The issue is that Protect is really good, but having an Umbreon that just sits in the field and, like, soaks up damage can be really annoying. Items, Leftovers is okay. I would probably prefer, like, a Citrus Berry or, like, an, let's see, I don't know, was I going to overwrite my progress? No. I have Papa Berry could be good, something like that. You have options. You don't want to run Lash Out because Inner Focus means you can't be intimidated, and also Umbreon, like, the attack stat, even if you have max, you know, like this, you only get, you know, 85 stat. So Foul Play allows you to use the target's attack stat, which also means you don't have to worry about your own attack stat. So, yeah, kind of first things that I would be looking for, I would be like, all right, Umbreon versus, actually, it's already in the calc, Rillaboom. How much are we taking from Woodhammer, right? In grassy terrain. So I see, all right, well, that's a lot of damage, but if I Intimidate them, I always live, right? It's always a 2-hit KO. So, yeah, so there's, like, I would just start calcing versus this, maybe like Cinderace. It kind of stinks that the things aren't preloaded, but that's fine. It's a fighting type. Make sure I can live this attack, for example. Or maybe max version of this attack, so, like, yeah. Something like this could be good. Right, now you know that you always live Max Knuckle from Cinderace. And you're probably never living beyond one, but yeah, you don't really want to take the attack that much, but at least if you Intimidate it, like, you'll survive anyway. So, yeah, kind of, that's like a starting point for Umbreon. Again, a lot of the specifics are going to depend on the team. Yeah. I don't want to spend too much time on Leafeon or Glaceon. I'll just really quickly show you all what I did with them. Leafeon, I gave it Life Orb because of Chlorophyll. Again, the ability and stats are important. I saw, all right, well, in Sun, I can see that I'm going to be, like, I can outspeed everything in Sun, right? So I know that these are the starting stats. I'm like, all right, so my special defense is lacking, my HP is lacking, my defense is very good, but the other two are pretty frail. So my attack is pretty good, my speed in Sun is very good. I'm just going to run max attack. I didn't need to invest in speed, so I actually ran max HP on my Leafeon to kind of give it a little bit of bulk, and then I think 4 went wherever. And then the moves were Detect for protection, because it's Life Orb, Leaf Blade, Dig, I think, and then I think it was X-Scissor. I don't remember the specific moves because I changed them at some point. I think, no, it wasn't X-Scissor, it was Iron Tail. Yeah, to hit Togekiss. So this was kind of just like, this was in a different metagame, so, you know, don't read too much into it, but, yeah, that was kind of just like I mean, you guys are seeing the theory, right? Like, it's like, all right, what does the Pokemon do well, and where's the Pokemon weak? And then you either compensate for the areas where it's weak, or you say, like, what the Pokemon does well, and you try and make that even stronger. So for Leafeon, I actually did a bit of both. I said, all right, it's kind of frail. It's not the frailest, but it's not super bulky on the special side. And it's strength so that it's a fast, strong physical sweeper in Sun. So I paired it with Torkoal, and I gave it max attack Adamant to make it strong. I gave it Life Orb to make it strong. I gave it Detect, Leaf Blade, Dig, and Iron Tail for good coverage moves and to Dynamax it. And then, yeah, max HP was just to increase the longevity because I didn't need the speed EVs because I was running it in Sun. This is actually before Venusaur, for anyone wondering. Like, because I think in theory you can... This is, like, faster than Venusaur. So if I were to run it now, I'd probably run speed, but that's what I did back then. What happens if I do copy, delete, Glaceon? Now, I tried a bunch of different things. Hang on, I can do this. That's a way to trick it to give you extra slots, and then do this now. It's fine. Cool. Okay, let's talk about Glaceon as well, because we're almost there. Glaceon, I tried a bunch of different sets on. Glaceon was it was really hard. I'm sure most of you are aware that it was super difficult. When I was looking at it, I was like, all right, decent bulk, low base speed, good special attack. I tried Life Orb, right? Snow Cloak was the better ability. You know, Detect, Blizzard, Shadow Ball, Hyper Beam, stuff like that, or Ice Shard sometimes I ran. I tried Assault Vest, you know. Most of my spreads were just like this. You know, just like, it was mostly used on Trick Room teams. So yeah, it was fine to do stuff like this. I think on this one I did Ice Shard. Sometimes I ran Freeze Dry as well. I paired it with Weakness Policy Pokemon. It was just overall it was really hard. I just tried like pretty much every combination of things I could. No, it just wasn't strong enough. It was in a bad place in the metagame. It didn't do enough damage. I tried Specs. I think at one. Maybe I didn't try Specs, but yeah. Overall, it was just not. It just wasn't very strong. But I think you can kind of see that like there's a pattern here, right? Like on Pokemon like Glaceon, who aren't very fast, I used it as a Trick Room sweeper, right? That was the goal at least. But it had good bulk, so I tried to make it bulky with like Assault Vest. And Glaceon, the Eeveelutions I think are a good example because they share many, like their stats are all the same. I'm not sure if Sylveon has all the same stats, but they all have like some combination of these stats, right? Like 130, 65, 60, 110, 95, 65, right? It's all these stats in some order. So you can see that like depending on where the stats go, it influences how you train it. So Glaceon has the bulk and the power, but it doesn't have the speed. So you make it bulky, Trick Room sweeper, right? That's the idea. Jolteon has the speed and the power, but not the bulk, so you make it fast, frail, offensive sweeper. Espeon like Jolteon. Umbreon like Vaporeon, which is all bulk, no power, no speed, right? So just depending on where the stats go, that's kind of how you do it. And you can use this process for a lot of Pokemon. And of course, like there's other ways of using these Pokemon, right? This is just one way, but this is just how I would first take a look at these Pokemon. And last but not least, last but not least, let's take a look at Sylveon. Sylveon's the best evolution by far, other than Leafeon, of course, but yeah, it's actually the best evolution. So yeah, same stats as the rest. The reason why is that the typing is phenomenal. Mono Fairy is a great type, and then the ability is broken. It powers up your normal type moves, makes them Fairy types, so you can do Hyper Voice, right? Now you've got a spread Fairy move. Sylveon has a lot of flexibility. You're most of the time going to want like something like this. In the current metagame, I'd probably do, like, as a starter spread, I'd do something like this. Right? You should probably be EVing for specific things with Sylveon, but, yeah. Taking a look at the stats, you see it's got a good special attack stat, good special defense, low defense, good HP, and it's low speed. So this is going to be a bulky attacker. You can use it as a Trick Room sweeper, or you can just use it as a general bulky attacker. It has all the good support moves of the other sets, so you can run Helping Hand and Yawn on it, like... I don't even think that's bad. It also just picks like quick attack, so depending on your team, you can run that. If you have like a weakness policy Pokemon weak to Fairy, Misty Explosion as well as an option. But yeah, in terms of Sylveon, you most of the time are just gonna. I mean, Sylveon's the easiest one, but most of the time you pretty much just run Hyper Voice, and then if you want a protecting move, you can do that, and then like either Helping Hand, Yawn, Quick Attack, and Mystical Fire are normally the four. You don't normally run a move like Shadow Ball or anything because most of the time, you're better off just clicking Hyper Voice. Some people have run, like, Eye of Papa Berry. You can also use Throat Spray, meaning after you use a Hyper Voice, or a Yawn, I think, actually. Oh, wait, Yawn isn't sound-based. Yeah, after you use a Hyper Voice, you get a power-up. Some people have run Moonblast. I don't love it, personally. If you want to run an offensive Sylveon, like a really offensive one that intends to Dynamax, Hyper Beam is a strong move as well. I've run into that and lost to that before, I think. Definitely lost to that before. But yeah, kind of just, like, Sylveon I don't have that much to say about because... it does a lot of, like, it's very similar to the other Pokemon, right? You pretty much were going to run Hyper Voice, Detect, and it's going to be a bulky Trick Room sweeper, or, or just a bulky Pokemon in general, like a bulky support bond that can actually do damage. It's a very strong Pokemon thanks to its ability and typing. So, yeah, that's a very quick kind of easy look. Actually, it took 35 minutes, so it wasn't that quick. But that's kind of like how I would go about starting to, like, look at all these Pokemon and how I would intend to use them. So, yeah. Let me know if you thought this was interesting. Let me know if you thought it was helpful. If you have any feedback on the idea. Because I honestly, there's a part of me that wants to do this for every Pokemon. Maybe not like this whole as intensive, but to go through and give you a set for every Pokemon in case you want to use them. That sounds like a lot of work. So, yeah, maybe I'd break it up somehow if I even wanted to do that. If people wanted it. So, yeah, let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. Eat banana, and I'll see you next time. Peace.